since I did an analysis on High School Musical, I thought I'd do a video talking about what I thought about it. So I guess I'll start at the beginning. I remember when it came out, I did watch it, I really got into it. I love the songs, I love the dancing, I like the story. The romance was really cute. It's fun, it's likable. And I was in the target demographic, so of course, I was constantly singing the songs. And then I grew out of it. And then I was forced to watch it at work one day in college because I had a boss who was really into it. It was a slow day at work. She was playing it in the background. And I thought, okay, you know, I am past some of this, but I really, really respect what they're getting at. The idea of being a well-rounded person. That's a great message. And then there was that viral post that got some traction about how Sharpay is actually a victim. She's not. And if you know my analysis, if you've seen it, you know what I think. No. She's a fun character. She's not the worst by any means. She's not even a bad person, but because she is trying to cheat others out of opportunities, because she's very selfish, very self-serving, she is the antagonist, she is the villain. And I do agree with everybody, though, that the fast version of what I've been looking for is better than the slow version. But, you know, they're all really talented. And she's not the worst by any means. There's rewatching the movie. One thing I noticed was that, you know, she finds out that Gabriella was this academic prodigy. Gabriella mentions that she was picked on for being the freaky math girl, which admittedly, even back then went over my head and is still something that doesn't quite compute with me. Because in my school, academic achievement was valued, and same was true in my family. So someone being bullied for being smart, someone being bullied for liking schoolwork and intelligence, I don't quite understand it, but I do know what happens. You think that since Gabriella mentions that she was the freaky math girl in school and that Sharpay figures that out, you think she's going to set her up to be bullied, but no, she's actually just trying to get her away from theater by having the mathletes or the scientific decathlon recruit her, which it's still self-serving, but it's not as bad as you think it's gonna get. So that's interesting, and in some ways that is realistic. Okay, I do know bullying can be really bad for whatever reason, but this definitely feels realistic, you know, small, very petty. She's just trying to get attention. She's just trying to get her out of theater, get her somewhere else, put her in a position where she's not threatening to her, and does that in a small, self-serving, but petty way. That was very interesting. It's, granted, High School Musical is corny, but I like a lot of corny things. I like musicals. I like the cheesiness, but it's not saccharine by any means. Some of the stuff I have gotten past, but even like when the basketball team and the scientific decathlon is trying to break Troy and Gabriella up and gets Troy to say things that make Gabriella think he doesn't care about her, it's very believable. And it is realistic in that way. You get that he's sick of them giving him crap for doing theater when it's really none of their business, but you also get that she genuinely feels hurt and betrayed, and that's, you know, when you're emotional, when you're under pressure, when you're at that age, when you're in high school, it's very believable. It's done in a better way than I see a lot of these breakups, these misunderstandings. It's handled way better here. It's more believable. And you do believe that it does take a little more to win her back over. Because you definitely get from the sense early on that she is very sensitive. She's very closed off. She has some issues from her past. While Troy's arc is more clear, you still get stuff with her too. And it's great. It's well done. It's well handled. The story's very well paced. The characters are all fun. Even the characters are supposed to dislike, they're fun to hate, you know, Sharpay specifically. Ryan, people more unapologetically love. Even here, he's not that bad. That's great. I was noticing more the adult actors in this. The main two are Coach Bolton and Miss Darbus. And as an adult, Miss Darbus is the funniest. What an underrated actress. Allison Reed is the actress. That character is so funny because I've known so many teachers like her. The very dramatic teacher who takes their class too seriously, takes themselves too seriously, and thinks that their class is the most important and expects you to treat that class as the most important. I've met plenty of teachers like her. I love the dramatic theater voice she has. It's very great. It's fitting. It's fun. Yeah, that's great. She's fun. She was my favorite this time around, and she's a very underappreciated actress. Also, Troy's dad, he's cute. The guy playing Coach Bolton, he's cute. And he's also a lot of fun, too. You definitely get the sense, a lot of the times you see these kinds of characters, you know, the pressure from the family, it's done in a very abusive way. You definitely get the pressure that's put on Troy, but at the same time, you get the sense Coach Bolton isn't as abusive as these other characters. And he's not one-dimensional either. He's likable. He's an easygoing guy. He just gets overexcited, and Troy feels that overexcitement. It's done in a more believable way, the parental-child conflict. It's more realistic here than you see in a lot of other films, and it's not, and the conflict, while it's there and you get it, it's not as dramatic or melodramatic as you see in a lot of other films. It's very low-key, very subtle, and these are real issues that we deal with. And yes, they can be really awful in the real world, but they can also come from overexcitement and wanting to share your passions, and also the pressure to get into college, the pressure, because in high school, that pressure is on you, worrying about the future. I like the way it handles it here. Again, there is some melodrama just because, you know, the characters are teenagers, but that's very, very true. Being in high school, a finding yourself message that's done very well here. I do mention this in my video. I really, really like that it shows that nerds are not always the victims, and in fact, nerds can have these prejudices too. So it's not just the jocks. The jocks can have their prejudices, and we've seen that in how many teen movies, how many cartoons, how many movies. Here we see, hey, everyone can have these prejudices, even nerds. You know, you have the scientific decathlon. She's condescending about cheerleaders, and the nerds are as hesitant of the jocks and can be very dramatic, and they're as suspicious of the jocks as the jocks are of theater and trying something new and what it says about you. I really like that it's about being a well-rounded person. I really like that. I really like that there is realistic fear and prejudice. The prejudices here come from fear of the unknown, fear of trying something new, fear of being embarrassed, fear of being abandoned, laughed at by your friends, and fear of not being good enough, fear of not succeeding, fear of being left behind and forgotten and ignored. They're realistic, but if you're willing to work on it, you can overcome these prejudices, and there is a lot of good here. And I mean, it's successful for a reason, because hey, sometimes you just like the corniness, sometimes you just think an actor's cute, and that was true for a lot of people. I mean, you know, Zac Efron was the big heartthrob, Vanessa Hudgens, Ashley Tisdale, Corbin Bleu, Lucas Grabeel. They all became these big heartthrobs, and for me, actually no. The hype turned me away, but I definitely get the appeal of all of them. They're all, you know, good-looking, talented performers, and they're very likable, very charismatic, fun to watch. So there is a lot of good in High School Musical. I do recognize that people may not get into musicals or Disney Channel movies, and I understand. But this is still a good story in its own right, and it does change a few cliches, and for the best. It has something very likable to say. It's got a very good message, very good values. If anything, I'd say the one thing that I thought was particularly unrealistic was, and again, this is just film, you know, there's fantasy. It's that the jocks and the nerds see how sad Troy and Gabriella are, and they recognize their mistake from seeing that. And that's not realistic because people do not notice when other people are sad unless they're close friends, but I didn't... A lot of times, especially as a teenager, you're focused on yourself, and we can all be very self-absorbed, especially at that age. It's just, and not very emotionally mature, not pick up on that. The fact that they notice it, see what's wrong, recognize their mistakes without being prompted. Okay, you know what? I get it. The story's got to move along. It's such a nitpick, but I thought, I don't think they'd be picking up on that with such maturity and such insight just from looking at them. I don't know if you guys know what I mean by that. But how in a lot of these teen movies, everyone seems to know everything about the golden boy or the main character. It's not particularly realistic, in my opinion. In my experience, people are often too self-absorbed to notice what's going on with their friends, or even if they know something's off, they don't always know the full story. So when they see that, it's, again, story's got to move along, and that's probably my one nitpick. Like, hey, how would they have noticed that? How would they have picked up on their wrongdoings? But you know what? That takes emotional maturity. I'm just going to go with, you know what? It's a story. It's got to move along, and it's a fantasy. I get it. So that's... And the characters do still recognize their mistakes. The fact they do recognize their mistakes and acknowledge it and try to move on from that and do better and actually do better, they support each other, that's still great. That is very well done. And anybody can make these mistakes. Jock, nerd, you know, we're human. We're not perfect. We should have the ability to learn from that. There is a lot to like in High School Musical. There is certainly a lot of charm in it. I think maybe part of that is the nostalgia goggles, but even then, even if I were watching it for the first time now, I would still recognize its merits and recognize, hey, this is still a well-told story, it's well-paced, there was a lot of talent put into this, a lot of hard work put into this. So, yeah, there's good stuff in it. And, yeah, huge success for a reason. High School Musical. Catchy, fun, good message, likable characters. People are still talking about it for a good reason, so. High School Musical. Wildcats. Which is something I swear to God every other school is the Wildcats. Okay, ending it for real. Wildcats.